The entire weather team was at the National Weather Service for a meeting.
Heard that. Good
A
for you
couple
guys.
of days ago. It was really nice. All four of us were there.
That's awesome.
Lots of great information. And guess who's going to put it all together for us? This guy.
This guy.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of many topics that was discussed, but it
Yeah,
was
indeed.
one that I think is getting a lot of discussion among the public because when you see that wind chill advisories and watches and warnings are just going away, you're thinking to yourself, well, why is that? Well, I'll explain it here. And all of these wind chill alerts that we've been used to, the terminology is just changing from this point forward. So what we've been used to with wind chill advisories is now going to be called cold weather advisories. We were used to seeing wind chill watches and warnings. Now there'll be extreme cold watches and warnings. So just a change up in the terminology and combining a couple of alerts that were in the past. The reason why I say combining is because those extreme cold watches and warnings were actually tested here in North Dakota in 2011 to 2012. There was a whole research paper that was done by many entities here in North Dakota. 188 people were surveyed in Burleigh County in that winter of 2011 to 2012 when they were experimentally issuing these extreme cold watches and warnings, just changing up that terminology to see if people would still get it, that it's going to be dangerously cold. And with both the wind chill terminology and the extreme cold terminology, that prompted people to take those protective behaviors. So specifically looking at this survey, the people had concerns after hearing of these warnings: loss of power, health issues, vehicle not starting, schools or businesses closing, threat to pets or livestock, and damage to exposed pipes. And then the actions that we usually take when temperatures are going to be very cold. These are what people said they would do if they heard about dangerously cold wind chills, or just that terminology, extreme cold: wearing extra clothing, ensuring your vehicle is in working order, just staying indoors, canceling or adjusting your activities and travel plans, protecting livestock and pets, and finding alternative forms of home heating. And another result from that survey, preferring that warning being issued a day or two beforehand so that you can plan for the extreme cold or dangerously cold wind chills. So the wind chill terminology has dated back to 1973, but again, we just piloted that extreme cold terminology in the winter of 2011 to 2012, specifically here in North Dakota with that survey. But now we're changing it all across the country, and it's going to be changed for good with this new terminology. And the reason for it is because cold is dangerous with or without the wind. And we're trying to get a little bit more simplified with all the different hazards that the National Weather Service issues. So the reason with the cold being important with or without the wind, sometimes there's an area of high pressure right overhead, very cold Arctic area of high pressure, that results in no wind, but temperatures that are still dangerously cold in the 30s and 40s below zero. And beforehand, you needed at least 3-mile-per-hour wind to issue those wind chill alerts. Now, just based on the actual temperature, the ambient temperature, or that apparent or feels like temperature, if that's cold enough, then these alerts will be issued. So for the new cold weather advisory, temperatures or wind chills have to be below between minus 30 and minus 39 degrees. The old criteria was below minus 25 degrees in North Dakota. It'll be staying at minus 25 degrees or below for that criteria to issue this cold weather advisory in eastern Montana, but getting a little colder before that cold weather advisory is issued now with the new terminology. Extreme cold watches a couple days in advance, just letting you know of the prospects of this coming in a couple of days. And then warnings once the confidence is a lot higher, closer to the extremely cold temperatures. Temperatures have to be minus 40 degrees or colder, or the wind chills minus 40 degrees or colder. So we're still talking about wind chills here, but just the terminology changing a little bit with the extreme cold wording to cover both if there's wind or if there's not wind present. So here in western and central North Dakota, we see a lot of these each winter. Probably one of the most common spots for seeing these types of alerts. 16 wind chill, what will now be called cold weather advisories per year, and we typically see about 4 wind chill, or what will now be called extreme cold warnings per year. But there's different criteria for different regions of the country just based on climate. So you won't be seeing a extreme cold warning issued in areas farther to the south compared to here based on the same criteria, or the same threshold for how cold the temperatures will be. And the criteria for many warnings or advisories is different based on geographic region. So let's take our winter storm warning, which is still staying the same. We need at least a forecast of 6 inches of snow or more in this tan color, light yellow color. That's for North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, the whole upper Midwest and northern plains. If there's a forecast of more than 6 inches of snow, winter storm warning will be issued, but it's less the farther south that you go. There's some other terrain-based anomalies with the Rockies and then lake effect snow with the Great Lakes for different thresholds. You need more snow in those locations before a winter storm warning is issued. Similar concept with winter weather advisories. For our region, we need between 3 and 5 inches of snow in the forecast within a 12-hour period. So another interesting thing that's changing up a little bit for this year with these cold weather alerts. In the past, they would include the cold weather terminology within these, let's say it's snowing as well, that type of alert. So if the snow is beginning and then you have a winter storm warning in place, they would just combine this terminology and saying, hey, it's also going to be very cold during the winter storm. And then once the snow ends, issue that wind chill advisory. But now they'll have 2 alerts in place at the same time during the snowstorm and as that extremely cold weather is in place to say, hey, the snowstorm is going to continue until this point, but the extremely cold weather will start halfway through the snowstorm, for example, and continue afterwards. So some important updates to the terminology with these wind chill alerts that we've been used to, now calling them cold weather advisories and extreme cold watches and warnings. Nothing much is changing in terms of how we forecast these extremely cold temperatures or how you need to stay safe from them, but just letting you know that this is going to be changing for this winter.
It's a good thing. I like it because, again, it can be dangerously cold and there may not be an advisory.
Right.
And now the Weather Service covers that so we can relay that to our viewers. I think it's important and I think it's a good change.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully there are 0 of those issued this
Great.
winter, but now I'm just dreaming. Thank you, Jacob.